I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask for a moment of silence, please.
Mr. Chair, before we do that, I'd like to ask that everybody remember the Pastor Sandy Seba family. Pastor Seba passed away on Saturday. He was pastor of the Elm Grove Baptist Church for 48 years here in Leavenworth County. He started out with a little one-room schoolhouse and built a very impressive compound down there with a gymnasium, auditorium, and he's touched a lot of people's lives in this county. And I believe the church has over 20 cities represented in it, that people travel to go to that church.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That people come from all over to go to that church, so he will be missed.
Thank you, Doug. Go, Mike, did you have something?
I just want to mention that the southern part of the county, reiterate what Doug said about Pastor Seba, a great moral leader for the southern part of the county. He's going to be extremely missed. I just wanted to read a little bit from his, just an excerpt from his obituary. Pastor Sandy Dwayne Seba, age 76, of Baser, Kansas, peacefully went home to be with his Lord on Saturday, January 8, 2022, at his home while watching the Chiefs football game, which he loved the Chiefs. And visitation will be 5 to 8, Friday, January 14th, the Elm Grove Baptist Church. Celebration of Life will be at 11 a.m. on Saturday, January 15th. Also at the Elm Grove Baptist Church. Burial will follow at the Elm Grove Cemetery. I know that the entire community is welcome and invited, and I know that the church has done a lot. I remember during the tornado, they opened their doors up for the entire community. And I know when I went door to door in Sherman Township, people I hadn't even ever seen, they would say, our church is the Elm Grove Baptist Church. Even if they didn't go to church, that's the church they claim and down in that area of the county, and it's a real loss for our community.
Yeah, and I believe the funeral is going to be live streamed also. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for bringing that up. As we go into a moment of silence, please keep those folks in your prayers. So I'd ask for a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you. Want to welcome everybody here, just be watching or see it later. Start with roll call. It's my turn to go first. Aye, Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen.
Aye.
Commissioner Culberson.
Aye.
Commissioner Collins.
Here.
All right. I don't think we have anybody in the 3-minute comment, so we'll move. We'll move on down. Administrative business. Mark, do you have anything for us?
I don't have anything today. Nothing that can't wait till next week.
Okay, thank you.
Becky needs Vicky for a second.
Okay, does any commissioners have anything they want to bring up when we're...
I just had a question, but I'm sure we don't have an answer because we don't have an attorney here. But we have the emergency order for the county that's still in effect. What when we go sign dine, does that carry over? I guess it does.
It does.
I'm sure it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other commissioner?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay, you okay with it? We good?
Good now.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled? If not, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All righty. Okay, now we'll go to a motion to adjourn for sign die.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn to sign die.
Second.
Motion and second. I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 Right now, motion to appoint a temporary chair.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mike.
I move that we appoint Michael Smith, temporary chair.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All right. Motion to convene, I guess, is the next one. Could I get a motion to
Move that we return to regular session.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, I'll start the roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I
Aye.
didn't hear you, sorry.
Okay, formal action. Consider a motion to appoint a new chairperson.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mike.
I'd like to move that we appoint Michael Smith, new chairperson.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? None, I'll start the roll
Well,
call. Go ahead.
Was we going to
Go ahead.
start changing chairpersons every year or not? I mean, I did it for 3 years. Did it for 3.5. I thought it was time to start passing it around, but I don't know how the rest of you feel. Any discussion on that, or anybody else?
I think 2 years is a good idea. 3 might be too much, like you said.
Okay. All right.
Kind of like going 2 years. That keeps some consistency for a little bit longer.
Any more discussion on that? Look at two then. I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All righty.
And then I think also we had talked about just rotating the number. So whoever the number is, so if it's 4 this year, then it will be 5, then 1, then 2, then, and just start
Yeah.
the rotation. Maybe next year
Yeah.
we'll talk about
We'll
that.
see what that is. Yeah, we got plenty of time for that.
We'll work through that. Okay, well, thank you, folks, I think. Consider a motion to set regular meeting days.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we keep Wednesday as our regular meeting days.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
I just wanted to bring up that
Go ahead.
we changed this around several times over the years.
Yeah.
You know, we keep hearing, why don't you guys make this at night so that
We
people
did
at
it.
work
We
can
did
make
it.
the meetings. We did that for a year, I think.
Nobody came.
Did it?
Nobody came.
Nope.
Less than come now at Wednesday. We had it 2 times a week. Less people came.
We had less people here at night than we did during
Yep.
the day.
and
And
even
we
when
had to
went
pay
twice-
staff
Yep.
extra to be
Yeah.
here.
So costing them more money and less people showed up.
Right.
So I think
Okay.
keeping it at Wednesday is the most efficient.
I don't like Monday meetings. Tuesday conflicts with Mid-American
Yeah.
Regional Council.
Yeah.
I just think Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Good for department heads and staff.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
I think you're right, Doug.
And this is pretty much the result of trying out all those different things twice a week, nights, Mondays, everything. We've tried it all, and this seems to be the best.
I think what helps is the meetings being live.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, we got a motion second. I'll call the roll. I'll start. Aye.
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 All righty. Consider, let's see, a motion to approve the official newspaper for the county.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we designate the Leavenworth Times as the official newspaper for the county.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Start the roll call. Aye.
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 Consider a motion to approve the official depository for the county.
I would like your motion to be to extend Commerce Bank for all the county's banking services. Currently, they do our purchasing card, they do our payroll bank account, our expense bank account, our general bank account. In reviewing, I believe that they will offer us the best interest rate that the county can receive. As we all know, interest rates are really at an all-time low, pretty much. And so I would like to extend the agreement with Commerce Bank as the official depository for Leavenworth County.
I agree with the county clerk because it would cost a lot to switch, and we're not going to make that up with the interest rates the way they are.
Absolutely.
I believe, if the interest rates do take a jump like everything else next year, maybe we could revisit this next year. But I think right now we should stay where we're at.
I'm fine with that. Any other discussion on it? Okay.
Is that a motion then, David?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess I should, yeah, that'd be my motion.
Motion and second. Okay, any more discussion? I'll start the roll call. Aye.
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 All right, very good. Consider a motion to approve Resolution 2022-2, setting the elected official salaries as approved in the 2022 budget.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Resolution 2022-2, setting the elected official salaries as approved in the 2022 budget.
I have something for discussion.
Let's get a second, then we'll go on. I'll second that. Go ahead, Jeff.
Until we get an official HR director, I think we need to adjust the clerk's salary to compensate her for taking over the HR duties, which she's already been doing for a year, and we have not compensated her. So I think it's past due, actually.
Okay.
So until we hire an HR director, I move that we.
Well, would that be on a separate deal? Because, well, I don't know, it wouldn't be.
Hey, Mark, could we approve this and bring this back with the recommendation?
Or a stipend?
Yeah.
Yeah, Commissioners, the resolution is just setting their base salaries. There are a couple of stipends that are paid for extra duties already. We could just add an additional stipend for those services.
Okay.
When would we do that? Today?
You could approve a stipend today if you'd like, or you could do it next week. And either way, it won't matter that much because it's just an amount that you're setting.
Okay.
And we'll formalize it with an agreement that we place in her file.
Let's do it next week. I have done it for probably 4 years now and have never taken any additional salary. There has been a huge savings to the county.
Absolutely.
When you look at the salary that we have in the past paid HR directors, I feel that my staff down there, there may have been some growing pains over the year, but I think they're doing a marvelous job. I'm very confident in them, and I appreciate that suggestion, Jeff, and I will accept it this year.
Well, what I'd like to do, if it's okay, I'd like to go ahead and approve this one, then get with Mark and come back, or whoever, and come back and have this on next agenda. So I agree with you. There should be some conversation on that.
Yeah.
But I'd like a little more numbers before we just throw something out.
Okay.
Right there. If that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I agree with what we're trying to do here. I think everybody else does too. Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'd like to have Mark put it formally in writing and bring it to us before we just.
Yeah, I'd like to have something to look at.
Right.
But I think the consensus is everybody's okay with what you're saying, so we're okay with that. So we'll just get that back in front of us before next meeting. So we have a motion. Is there anything else, Jeff?
Nope.
On that? We did have a motion second, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll start the roll call. Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay. E, consider a motion to approve Resolution 2022-3, prescribing the form and details of authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligations sales tax refunding bonds, Series 2022-A, of Leavenworth County, Kansas, providing for the levy and collection of an annual tax for the purpose of paying the principal of and interest on said bonds as they become due, authorizing certain other documents, actions, connections therewith, and making certain comments with respect thereto. Gave you plenty of time to walk up after that mouthful.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you and good morning. David Arterberry with Stiefel Nicholas. Today, the resolution that Mike was describing there represents the final step that the Commission will need to take in order to refinance the county's 2015 bond issue. And before I go into the results of the sale and before you consider the resolution, I kind of wanted to just talk a little bit about what we've been up to kind of leading up to this point. Basically, over the last few weeks, we've been in touch with Standard & Poor's to have the new bond issue assigned a rating, and the process went really well. Mark and Janet and David did a very nice job of presenting the county and its credit to Standard & Poor's. Standard & Poor's ended up affirming the county's AA- rating, which is considered a high investment grade rating. They actually even had some comments in their report and in my discussion with the rating analyst that said that, based on the trend that you're on, they could envision, if things stay the same or continue along that trend, possibly getting an upgrade within the next few years. So I always thought that hearing that is a real positive. An upgrade would have been better, but just hearing the fact that they're considering it, to me, was good news. After the rating was completed, we then distributed the preliminary official statement, which is the offering document that describes the transaction, to potential bidders around the country. All that led up to yesterday when the bids were due at noon. We convened a Zoom call and we watched as the bids were submitted to the bidding website. And you should have in front of you a copy of the results of the bidding. It's the page there that says "I deal" at the upper left-hand side. I was real pleased with these results. Going into the sale, the bond market had been experiencing some rough days. Interest rates had jumped up a little bit over the last couple of weeks. Yeah. And I was anticipating an interest rate of about 1.85%. So once the noon deadline hit and we clicked on the results button, needless to say, I was pretty happy with what ended up popping up there. You can see the 5 bids. The best bid, the firm that is offering to purchase the bonds at the lowest interest rate, was submitted by FHN Financial Markets out of Memphis. Their true interest cost on their bid was 1.707470%. We checked their bid. It was mathematically correct. It met all of the other bidding parameters, and they provided their good faith deposit. So based on that best bid, we went ahead and resized the bond issue, and you'll find the results here on the other page that I handed out, the final savings report. If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see how much savings that the county is going to get through the refinancing. It's somewhere around $53,000 per year, with a total savings over the next 15 years of $813,088.72. I think earlier Mark had been anticipating savings of $500,000 to $750,000. So despite the fact that interest rates had been rising a little bit, we still were able to exceed those earlier estimates.
Yeah, Dave, this is great news. I mean, this is really, looking at this 800-something thousand. This is fabulous.
Yeah, I was real happy too. I was real happy. And down at the very bottom of the page, I just wanted to show you that the average interest rate on the old bonds was 3.186%. The true interest cost on the new issue, after we went through the resizing, ended up being 1.706%. So the interest rate was cut almost by a full 1.5% as a result of the refinancing. So, the next step required to issue the bonds is to have the county adopt the bond resolution, and that will actually lock in the interest rates and the savings and officially issue the bond. So it's the last step that the commission would need to take. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the process or the results or anything like that.
This is exactly when I decided to run. In 2015, when they sold bonds for a sales tax we weren't going to collect money on until 2017 because they were going to look like rock stars on saving this low interest. And now we're cutting it in half.
With 800,000.
Saving 800,000.
Yeah,
that'll help make up for the $750-some thousand we paid in interest before we spent one dime of it.
Yeah.
Gee, financial
I remember
wizards.
it well. Okay.
Commissioners,
Mark,
if I could, it's hard for me to tell who's talking and what, so I apologize if I cut anybody off. But just want to point out that these are sales tax funded bonds, and the savings will go directly back into road projects over the life of the sales tax.
Yep.
Okay.
And so would have the $750,000 for the interest we paid on these before we spent a dime of it.
Okay.
That's enough history.
Can you get a motion?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move that approve resolution 2022-3 for the issuance of general obligation sales tax bonds.
Second.
Motion and a second. Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
I just want to say, I think this is the reason the taxpayers and the voters sent us up here, is to make these kind of financial decisions.
Yeah.
Fiscal conservatism, being responsible for folks' money, and this is a real win for the county.
Yeah, 813,000 folks. It's not a drop in the bucket. That's serious funding we've got coming back. I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. Even better than what we thought.
You figure the savings and the interest we paid,
Yeah.
$1.5 million mistake because people didn't know what they were doing. So
We got it rolling the right way now. I agree with you, Mike, over there on that.
If I could tack on to what you said just a minute ago, the rating report also, if you read through it, really does confirm that the county has taken a very conservative and prudent way to manage its finances overall, too, not just this project.
We're sure trying. Okay, nothing else. I'll call.
That one gets in the paper.
I'll call.
So with the stroke of a pen, we got another mile of County Road 30 covered.
Yep.
And he'll be stroked here in a second. Okay, Jeff, I'm going to call the roll. Aye.
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 Thank you.
Never
Very
thought
good.
I'd live to see that train wreck fixed.
Thank you. Going the right direction, Doug. All righty. Consider a motion to approve and authorize the chairman to sign a 3-year renewal contract with IBOS for the county's well filtering solution. Good morning.
Morning, Larry.
As usual, the chairman just defined exactly why I'm here.
Trying to help you, Larry. Trying to help you.
Renewal for IBOS, our web filtering solution. Because it's a 3-year agreement, I'm required to come before the board, get your motion on it, and the chairman's signature. Is there any questions about this particular arrangement?
I didn't have any. I thought it was pretty clear. Commissioners, anybody
No,
else?
I don't have anything.
If not, I'd like to get a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the chairman to sign a 3-year renewal contract with IBOS for the county's web filtering solution.
Can we get the amount on that?
Total expenditure over 3 years will be $13,655.56.
So moved.
Very good. I'll second that. Any? Okay, I'll start. Aye.
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 All righty, good to go.
If you have
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
You didn't get too comfortable in that seat, did you? Hey, thanks, Larry. All right, presentation discussions. We got start with quarterly reports.
We need to go with
I'm sorry.
Attorney.
County Attorney.
Oh, maybe I was trying to forget that one on purpose. Come on up there, Todd. Sorry.
There went some
I was
of our
writing the number down for that last one right
There
beside.
went some of our savings.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is
Thanks, baby.
probably the third time I'm up here, but our office does need the additional funding due to the situation that COVID has presented. I should probably take my mask off, I'm sorry. Due to the position that COVID has put into our office, we've had probably over 250 trials that we had started in June. We're still at 150, maybe a little less. That we're doing 68 trials are scheduled each week. We have those actually probably more scheduled up until at least June. With that, we have multiple cases of charges that we have to file on top of that. With each of these trials, each of my attorneys are expected not only to review cases, but also meet with witnesses, prepare those, and present those trials. And every time attorneys are in the trial, they're expected to do that, and then maybe very next week have a subsequent trial. We have legitimate concerns about being able to take care of the situation due to that, and that once we get through some of this, we're going to be carried on a backlog, and this is going to be a continuing cycle. So with that, I've asked for additional funding, which will for not only attorney positions but staff positions, which would be necessary for the additional work that we are facing.
Hey, Mark, do you have any comments on this?
Commissioners, I do have a couple of comments on this. One, I do have some concerns about the funding because it's not, I think what's in the packet demonstrates funding for 1 year, but I did not get a firm commitment from the county attorney as to at what threshold we would be back to before these positions would go away. So this could be an ongoing expenditure that you're using one-time funds, COVID funds for. I also wonder, for 2020, pretty much we were shut down completely in the court systems, and I hear with the latest uptick in COVID cases that some of the courts are starting to close again, so I'm concerned about that we may shut down these jury trials again and then have 4 additional staff members that we're covering. And then conversations I've had with the county attorney over the last year and a half or so is the growth in his department currently is unsustainable at the rate it's going, and I just want to be sure that these are acknowledged that these are grant-funded positions only, and I think that we need to have some identified thresholds where they would go away.
Okay. Todd, do you have any response
Yes,
to
I
that?
did respond to
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Lowry about those. I did present those numbers. Our numbers are exceptionally high towards the average that we had done. He had a 5-year look back. I believe I had provided those numbers to the county commissioners previously, but we do, and I have provided those numbers. It's well beyond a year that we will need to have the sustainability. I do, as I addressed in my motion, we are looking at multiple people that will be retiring. We have several people within our office that are at the retirement point, if not more, and what we would be able to is just not have to rehire someone, but just maintain the employment of the people that we already have. So that would fill if anything would go beyond the 3-year threshold for this grant. I would tell you that, Mr. Lowry is correct. There is a need. Our county needs this. We need our protection. We need cases to be charged and filed and successfully prosecuted. My attorneys have an ethical threshold that they have to do to be able to prepare and present trials. And so if that threshold's not being met, we're not looking at protecting our community, much less according to our statutes. I can demand or have that funding, which is, at this point, I think we have a luxury that we have a grant to be able to use to see how we can get ourselves back to a right ship. Regarding the shutdown of courts, in my conversations with Judge King, and I do not want to speak for him, but he's looking at the hospitalization numbers more than the infection numbers. So the only time I would see that we would be shutting down trials at this point, since we're not getting the hospitalization numbers that we had seen last year and the year before, would be if those numbers so rise or we get to the point that we just are running out of jurors, which is obviously a concern with the amount of trials that we're doing regularly. But beyond that, there should be no reason why we weren't or we won't continue to be proceeding with trials.
Okay. Mike?
Were you wanting this funding to come from the ARPA funds, or were you requesting the funds just come from the general budget, or where
I wanted, at this point, I just wanted to come from the ARPA funds. I wanted to be able to just get everything right and see where we are and see once we are in a correct order, which I have provided the statistics to Mark, and I believe I think you all have seen too, where we have to get our numbers back down to be able to have a satisfactory review rate as well as court rate and trial rate. We should be able to be right. At that point in 3 years, and obviously we'll monitor each year to see where the office is, but at that point in 3 years, I can come back and tell you, as I had told you the 2 other times I've been up here, we are in a desperate need that we have to ethically have these attorneys and staff to be able to satisfy the county's needs. Everyone knows the county is growing. With that, even with growth, crime grows. We've had some very serious crimes in the past year. I think everybody's realized, and that causes a lot more time and attention than just some of our average cases. And I need to have the ability for my attorneys to function properly. If not, we can't fully protect the community that we need to do.
Has your caseload, if you go back and say 2018, 19, 20, 21, what has it? I know we have a backlog right now, but if you look at the pure numbers of your caseload, has it substantially changed?
The numbers that are coming into the office have not substantially changed, but we have seen some very serious cases that cause a lot more attention than a normal situation that we have. Law enforcement and prosecutors have been getting a hit throughout the public, as the sheriff, I think, presented maybe a couple of weeks ago with his issues of hiring. I think all the law enforcement, not just in our county, but in the entirety of our nation, are having a struggle to bring in and get considerable help. Prosecution offices are having the same problem. I will also note that I'm not the only prosecutor that is making a request like this. Steve Howe from Johnson County has already gotten benefits from the ARPA to the point of $3 million to help satisfy their backlog. I know the Shawnee County is having the same serious issues, as well as other counties within our area. So I am asking for the same thing that everyone's facing right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, my 2 cents. I would like to see Mr. Thompson and his staff sit down with Mr. Lawfrey and look at the budget thoroughly, and then see if we can figure out this funding within the current budget. And if we can't, then Mr. Lawfrey, along with the county attorney's office, come back and make a recommendation.
Within Mr. Thompson's budget, or is it a general fund?
Well, within the budget that we budgeted for the county attorney's office, if they can find within that budget.
I think he's made clear that he doesn't have the funds within his budget currently to do that.
You're talking about the overall county fund?
I'm just wanting, I think from my conversations with the county administrator, I think there may be some issues of figuring out what the details of those budgets are, and just that we don't make a decision on the spot, that we have a recommendation from the county administrator after they have an opportunity to sit down and look at these figures.
But this is an allowable expense under the ARPA, though.
It is, but I'd like to, if we need to use it, I'm not saying not to use it. I'm just saying I'd like to have a thorough vetting of this.
I just don't think we're in the business of questioning the county attorney regarding, he is an elected official as well.
We're in the business of overseeing the spending of taxpayers' money.
And so is he.
And all I'm saying is for them to sit down together and
I think he has.
look with it. I don't believe that that's true. Mr. Lawfrey, have you had an opportunity to have a thorough conversation about the budget of the county attorney's office with Mr. Thompson?
Commissioners, I have expressed my concerns directly with the county attorney. Some of the statistics that we talked about, I did not get complete details on, but one thing, and I said it earlier, is to me, I believe there needs to be a target. This is an open-ended request. There's no threshold that says when we get back to this caseload, then we can reduce staff. And the fact that somebody's eligible for retirement does not mean that they will necessarily retire. As we all know, just looking around, we probably have people in that room right now that are eligible to retire, but they have no intentions of retiring because they're still doing their job and enjoy it. The other thing that I want to point out, and the county attorney mentioned it in his presentation to you, this is not a one-year request, which is probably my biggest concern. He mentioned 3 years. This is a $750,000 request that is being proposed here. It's not $250,000; it's $750,000, and so that's why I would prefer that we have some firm targets as far as caseloads to know when these positions are going to go back. And over the last 5 years, salary line item in the county attorney's office has grown, I believe, over 65% in increased staff, and I'm concerned about adding 4 more.
Jeff, you got any comments?
I think I'm agreeing with Commissioner Stephen and Commissioner Cos at the same time. I know Todd's gone through the numbers, and this is an allowable expenditure for that account. But I also think instead of passing this right now today, we should have maybe some more discussion between the county administrator and the county attorney as far as can we find this money in some other account, because this ARPA money is going fast. I mean, it's already we've already spent more than there is, just by earmarking
Roads and bridges.
Yeah, and we haven't even got to roads and bridges, really. So if we can find the money somewhere else in the overall county budget first, then I think we should do that. If we can't, then I have no problem with giving Todd the money out of the ARPA funds. But instead of voting on it today, I think we need a little more time to look at it.
Well, just my 2 cents. I, very pro law enforcement, very pro prosecutor's office. I think nowadays people aren't held accountable for their action, and that's one of the things that's wrong with this country. At the same time, I would like to see some numbers. The only thing I would look at, and we talked about, is I'd like to see if there's any way that we can get more, and I know maybe you can't do it, Todd, commitment after 3 years, because when we take a $750,000 hit on having to pay it out somewhere else, it's going to be very huge. I have no problem with catching up where you need to be. I really don't. But I think after the 3 years, or whatever that time is we decide on, that we got to be very, very careful with that. So I guess I'm kind of on both sides of this too. I totally support it because I want you to get caught up. But I just, hopefully there in 3 years, we can probably take another look at it. And you don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. I get it. We're just making a big guess here. So after saying that, what does the county commissioners wish?
I support elected officials.
Yeah, I do too, and I'm all for giving him the money if that's what we need to do. I just think we need another week or two to figure out where we should get it from. One way or another, we need to get Todd the money.
Okay.
Well, I think then obviously we probably should go, my opinion, we should go ahead and give him the funding, but I'd still like to see that meeting sit down.
I'm 100%. I felt I had sat down with the meeting before. I
understand
provided them the numbers before, and I have explained how the flow would work. The numbers to the backlog and the numbers to the trial. Once we get through the backlog, anything that we file is going to go into court, so it's going to take time in the process. Right. If we don't do this, we're just, that's why I was here in April, and then once again with the budgetary request for the position, because we're just causing more and more of a logjam, and things are just getting backed up further and further. And if we don't get it resolved, we're going to see bigger problems than anyone.
And I don't think the commission up here is saying you don't need it. I'm saying that we're saying that we're responsible for the taxpayers' dollars. And like I told you before, and I know you are too. I know you're an elected official also. So I'd like to go ahead and get this going with the stipulation or the thing that Todd and Mark can sit down, and maybe we can get a better handle on what it's going to look like in 3 years. Are you okay with that?
I'm yes, and I think a lot of it is just kind of education on how our office actually works to understand that. I think that's the rubber to the road, is understanding how the office works to what the need is, and I think a lot of people don't understand that, and I'm more than fine sitting down once again and doing that again.
Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't want to get confused that we're saying Todd needs to figure out how he's managing better or something like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need the money, but let's look at where we should get the money from first.
But I'm
only talking about a week or two.
But we're also talking about that we're going to everybody's. What I can see is the consensus is we're going to do it no matter what.
Yeah.
So why don't we just approve this, and then we can always come back and look at it. That's one thing out of the way. Then when they can sit down and have that conversation, education, and maybe emphasize, and Todd could give us a better picture of how he plans on, because he's an elected official, going to bring it out in 3 years, and maybe there'll be some there'll be a light, shining light that'll show us that maybe you can reduce, or retirement or whatever it is. I know you'll do the best you can, so don't look at it any other way than that.
I hate making taxpayers pay any more than they have to.
Yeah.
I hate even being here, and that's one of the.
I can tell the expression on your face.
I do not like even coming.
I understand.
Asking for this.
I understand that too.
I think it's silly that.
I understand, Todd. I
I
understand.
mean, I feel like it's, if it wasn't for the situation that we're in, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for the situation I deal with my attorneys every single day, trying to figure out how to make sure. And we've been doing well. I mean, if you've even, I'm sure Mr. Richmeyer could probably attest, we've gotten multiple convictions on very serious
I've
murder
followed you.
cases.
I read the paper.
And if we want to continue having that, I need to be able to have my attorneys prepare and move forward, but I also need to be able to take care of the people that are waiting for their cases to be filed.
I understand. I don't think that's the issue with us, Mike.
Well, a couple things. And you should not feel on the defensive because it's kind of like a family sitting down at the table and we're trying to come up with how we're going to budget things for vacations and what the responsibilities are for groceries and all those types of things. So if we're not trying to put you on the defensive, we're just trying to figure out where this part's going to come from and where this part's going to come from. But this request is for $250,000 for 1 year.
1 year.
So I would support making a decision for 1 year, and then for the other 2 years, the out years, have the county attorney's office and your staff meet with Mr. Lawfrey, and maybe in terms of when we do the budget, maybe we can figure out a way that it doesn't have to come out of our funds. Because that's direct road and bridge money that I personally would like to see us reserve as much as we can for infrastructure. So I guess I'll make a motion that we approve this $250,000 for 1 year on the condition that the county attorney's office sits down with Mr. Lawfrey for the off years and figures out the specific.
Would that make you feel more comfortable that we're?
I'm fine with whether 1 year is not going to be able to get me over the hurdle, and that's what I'm afraid of. And if you promise other money to other things, then that money is not going to be there the year after. So, I'll take whatever I can get, but I'm going to need more because.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think what
But
we're
your
saying
request
is
for
we're
250, so that's
right,
what
and I understand, and some of that is with future ideas that we definitely need, and I'll manage with what we can get, but I will tell you that yes,
You're going to need
I'll be back
additional
at the
funds.
table. Yeah, I'll be back at the table again, and that's fine. You guys make that decision, and I respect and appreciate that. I'm just telling you where I went, and I had planned, and as I met with Mark, I had told that we will yearly report what we're doing and how we're doing, which I would hope to do that regardless.
and we're not questioning that you need the money at all. We're just trying to figure out where to get it from.
I know, I get that.
In a perfect world, the courts would be self-supporting, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I
Everybody have
don't
to pay
like the
to
way
use
it's
it.
set up, but it is what it is.
Good luck getting money out of some of his clients.
And we have to charge crimes. We can't just let people go. We
No.
can't say,
No.
well, we don't have money to prosecute. We don't, so
No, we don't wanna
we're
get
just
to
going
that
to let
point.
everybody be, diverted and put them back out on the streets because that's not the answer. We have to charge these crimes, and to do that, it costs money.
Well, I agree with that, but when you have a budget that's gone up 65% since 2016, that, like Mr. Lawfrey said, that's unsustainable, and we need to have them sit down in the budget process and figure out how we can make this fit working towards the future.
We also have to look at whether or not during that period of time or since that time, how much does it cost? What is the market for having people, good attorneys, and keeping them within the department? We also have to look at what was our turnover rate and why. There's all kinds of things that you have to consider during that period of time, what was happening and what has resulted in these individuals and the budget increasing over time.
I agree with that.
So you can't just throw out there and say, oh, this is how much it's been, as a general rule.
You know,
He has,
But-
he has,
But I think, Vicki,
Jeff.
we're not saying that. I'm sure Todd's done all that.
Right, I'm saying
and we're
he
not
has
saying
brought
that
us
he doesn't-
budgets.
Yeah, we're
We've
not saying
approved
that
them.
he doesn't need it. We're just saying we got to figure out where to get it from. If we have to give it to him out of ARPA funds, then we'll do that.
you know, one, and I see where you're going with this, Mike, Jeff, but 250 is just getting him started, then all of a sudden it gets canceled. I don't see how that does it. I'd at least like to do for 2 years worth to get it going, so he at least can get some of these cases and things handled. One is then, you know, there's a few of us up here up for election, and things change, and I'd hate to see Todd have to come back before somebody and it not get done down. These are serious needs. We need to get these things cleaned up, and I'm very impressed with the way the caseload has been handled. Like Doug said, I read the paper, I see the things going. So I'm very torn on this, but what would the commissioners think about doing at least 500 for 2 years, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, the request
I know.
is for 250,000. So I don't see us, and I don't think we're taking into account any kind of additional accountability. So I definitely think we should do a year at a time.
Okay, it's up to y'all.
Do you know if there's anything going to be in the legislature for helping any of this?
No, I'm not aware of anything at this time. And one of the things that the
You
percentage...
didn't write a bill or anything?
I have not written a bill this year
Okay.
for that. I know I usually do write
I know.
a lot. And one of the things to the increase, I mean, and you keep mentioning the 60 or so % increase, I mean, that is just, I mean, I was trying to keep my salaries comparable to the rest of the county. I mean, my staff have been underpaid for so many years that I'm just trying to keep comparable to everybody else. I had staff who loved the office, but saw that they were getting paid twice as more somewhere else within the county. And I can't maintain, and that shows almost a disrespect to my staff.
Right.
So I had to increase that budget to be comparable. So to keep arbitrarily throwing out this number that I keep asking for more money in the last 5 years, that's just me trying to be as fair to my staff as everybody else is. So,
Well, but
I mean, I haven't added.
understand what you're saying, but listen, it's just like the family conversation we said, when we have between the sheriff's budget and the county attorney's budget, we're spending more money than we're spending on roads and bridges and infrastructure in the county, and it's our responsibility to oversee that. We have to be very careful anytime we're going to make a commitment to large sums of money. So I think if your request is for $250,000, that gets you where you need to be for right now. We work together on these future budgets. I just don't like it when we come in here and we just open-ended make large commitments.
Mark, do you have anything else on this?
No, Commissioners. When Todd and I met, I think there's no doubt that there's a backlog and he needs assistance to get through that backlog. I just wanted a goal in sight to set that we know when the backlog's caught up and when we can transition away from this additional staff.
And I'm more than willing to make that meeting and also explain, because even once you get through the statistical numbers that I have for what the backlog might be, we still have a whole process, which those cases take time to get through the court system, and that's where the additional year, at least the 2 years, I was hoping for 3, would help me satisfy making sure we get through the position that the office is in.
Okay, I think we beat. You got something else, Vicki?
I can live with what Mike is saying.
Okay, Mike, you had a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve the request from the county attorney office for $250,000 1 year, and with the condition that he meets with Mr. Lawfrey to review budget processes and potential other areas to find the funding.
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, but I think that we need to definitely say that we're going to revisit this
Okay.
Sooner than later.
with the
So
plan.
when we do our 2023 budget, Mr. Thompson will be working on that anyway. So
And then-
at that time, maybe if we cannot find the money, that we could maybe commit additional funds. out
Right,
on
we
it.
need to make sure that we have a
So,
plan
I mean,
to commit funds
that
to
way he's
carry this through.
got some heads up on this.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Jeff, Mike. I'll start the roll call. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, now let's move on, since I won't be skipping that. Presentation, yeah, I know what I was going to do. Presentation, discussion, quarterly reports, and we have Council on Aging first. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
It's good to be here, Commissioners, Chairman. We've been busy. It's been a heck of a year at the Council on Aging. So, fourth quarter of every year is spent on Christmas. This year we were able to serve 607 seniors in the community, individuals, organizations, churches, supported us with over $17,000 in monetary gifts, as well as gifts and items for our seniors, and those were delivered. So that pretty much takes up October, November, December for us, and gets us set. That nearly tripled the amount of contributions that we've ever received. At Christmas, we were about $6,000 last year. We used that money to sponsor individuals for Meals on Wheels for the year, as well as provide money for those individuals to take our transportation and things like that. So I gave you a little look back at 2021 at a glance. You could see we served over 97,000 meals last year. 81,000 of those being homebound meals and 16,000 being congregate meals. That's about a 2.4% increase. Last year we nearly doubled, so to have an additional 2.4% increase, it keeps us moving every day to get those meals out the door and get people fed. Just for a little deeper context, we transitioned about 300 folks off of Meals on Wheels last year. Over half of those were folks who moved out of the county and were no longer able to receive those services, moved in with kids, moved into nursing homes, things like that. About 66 of our participants passed away in 2021. And then we had 26 that we were on for a short time. So we have folks who do Meals on Wheels because they break a hip, they have a stroke, they need a little help for a short period of time, and then we transition them back. Transportation, we've also seen quite a bit of growth in the last year. So a 27% increase from an all-time high of 12,000 rides in 2020 to 15,000 in 2021. We added trips to vaccination clinics, and that added a lot of trips for transportation. You can see a 34% increase also in out-of-county medical trips, and we believe that can be directly attributed to the closing of Cushing Hospital. So folks needing chemo 5 days a week for 6 weeks, or stroke rehabilitation for 8 weeks, 5 days a week. So that's a lot of trips outside of the county to keep folks getting that essential medical care they're unable to find here within the county. In-home support, about a 33% increase there. Those are things that we do. Personal shopping for folks who are still cooking for themselves but need that help. Chores, we install smoke detectors, we mow lawns, we clear snow, those kinds of things. SHIC, there, 160% increase there. That's Medicare enrollment. The number of folks we were able to help with Medicare. And then you'll see that gigantic 82% increase in information and assistance. That is a direct result of the number of people who called in to get help to get a vaccine. We were taking 1,000 calls a week and burning up the phone lines there. So all in all, things are going well. We're really working to build partnerships, especially with health and wellness offerings. We've got a Winter Olympics event coming up in February where 2 cardiologists are going to be leading a fitness activity and providing some support there. We're working on a 3-year comprehensive plan for fundraising and making sure that we're very strategic in the way that we're generating revenue and planning that out, especially this year with our move to Cushing. Meals on Wheels and need for transportation continues to grow. So we have about 40% of our participants who are unable to pay the $2, and just an overwhelming number of folks who need additional specialized medical care that's causing the need for transportation to grow. But when we ask, this community responds. We've nearly doubled and tripled the amounts that we've raised for individual fundraisers all year long. So we're being very judicious in how we ask, when we ask, what we ask, and folks keep responding. So using that money being very fiscal and responsible with how we're doing that. Moving forward, we are shifting to digital. We are currently don't have software for client records and keeping track of the number of folks in our program, so we'll be purchasing that this year. Those are budgeted expenses that we planned for last year. We'll be launching an online donation platform, and then also launching new agency logos and branding to ensure that we're capturing our entire 50-plus market. We do a really great job capturing the 80-plus market, but have offered a lot of different activities to attract those 50 and above to ensure that we're utilizing all the space that we'll have at our new location. And then, of course, getting ready to move. I know that demo's done and walls are being studded now, so we're getting super excited about our move to Cushing and planned for that in all of the work that we're doing.
Needless to say, y'all been very busy. Okay.
We have been, so it's good work.
There's a good number, so it shows up very productive.
And that's why it's so important for them to have a good fleet of vehicles.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the case in the past.
Ran good downhill, but not up.
They didn't even do that.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah, I used to see
the
them
vehicles that we had for Council on Aging.
And if we could get those chips, we'd have.
I know it's out of our hands.
Yeah.
I had one of the folks who rides with us for transportation offered to go to China or wherever she needed to go to get them.
Good luck with that.
If the rubber hits the road, she'll go.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay, any questions for?
Oh, I think
I just had a comment, a
Jeff,
plug
what?
actually, and I started working with Scarlett about a benefit concert. It's probably going to be the end of May at Haymarket Square. We'll have 2 or 3 bands playing, concession trailers, probably including Meals on Wheels, beer garden, attraction for the kids. We're working on jump houses, petting zoos, train rides.
What about parking?
Maybe a craft bazaar. It's
We're
Haymarket.
going to have to run a trend from somewhere.
I need train rides to the
We have
car.
a fleet for that.
You have a fleet. There you go.
There you go.
We'll take over the courthouse parking.
That's a good thing, Jeff.
We'll probably have that at the end of May, I think.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
I guarantee it's going to be sold out.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a big crowd.
Me too. I agree with you. Any other, Mike?
I've heard nothing but good reports about what you're doing and everything out there. I just wanted to ask you about your COVID responses. Where are we at on that, the mitigation, all that, the Council on Aging?
Yeah, we received some guidance in December. We had some large events scheduled, so we did cancel activities the last couple weeks of December just to ensure that if folks wanted to spend time with their families, that they weren't going to be exposed in any way by an event that we were having. So we've reopened those. We've capped large events at 30 in our largest room. Because we can put 2 to a table and spread them out. We mask at the Council on Aging anytime we are customer facing, and obviously optional for staff to mask at any time. We've restricted the number of folks that we'll have on a bus to 15, so we're trying to keep numbers small, social distance. We know that we're working with the most vulnerable population and don't want to do anything to put anyone at risk. So keeping things rolling, because we know that interaction and keeping folks from being isolated is as important as all the other safety protocols. We just want to make sure that we can do that in the safest way possible. You're welcome.
Any other? All righty, well, thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
Keep up the great work.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next is planning and zoning. Come on down. You're our next contestant. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Last but not least, I don't know. All righty. I will make this quick because we spend a lot of time together, so you know a lot about what we are doing. I think the thing that the Commission is probably the most interested in is the end of the year totals for building permits and such, so I will just start there. With the end of the year in 2021, we issued 139 single-family residence building permits. That was about 65% more than we issued in 2020, so that's a pretty huge jump. We also issued 162 accessory building permits. Again, that was about a 35% jump from the year. Our biggest jump, though, was in 2021. We had 204 development cases, so special use permits, plats, variances, and such. In the 7.5 years that I have been here, we have never touched that number even close. I think the closest we've ever been is about 160.
Did you say it was special use permits also?
Yeah, that includes
Okay.
special use permits, plats, variances, tract splits, home occupation licenses. So a significant jump. Our office has been busy.
Do you think that has anything to do with our comprehensive plan changes and the way the planning has been changed?
I think it has to do with, one, the county is definitely growing. There has been a huge push for land development in the last couple of years. I think certainly the comprehensive plan changing and allowing for 2.5 acre zoning in places where it was not previously allowed has definitely pushed a large chunk of that development, absolutely. We've seen an increase in rezonings, as you know, and those rezonings typically follow up with subdivision plats.
I think Mike knew the answer. He just wanted to hear it.
which the ultimate end to that is that lowers people's taxes. It increases the
People can
tax.
take care of 2.5 acres. And I think a lot of people are moving out here because a lot of people are working from home still. I mean, the world's changed.
Yeah.
What amazes me is the increase in building permits when lumber was 500%
Yeah.
higher than it was the year before.
Exactly.
That just
You're right,
doesn't
yeah.
make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, they always say rooftops, you can't build tax base on rooftops, but the counter to that is once your rooftop numbers reach a certain threshold on the price of the house, there has to be a tipping point there where you're actually, when it's a $750,000 house, or you're actually bringing raw revenue into the county.
The $750,000 home is paying the bills.
It is a fine line, commissioners, between extending services and
It is.
That's the balancing act right there.
extending services, school taxes, emergency services, and such, and also bringing in taxes. Ideally, what we would like to see is enough rooftops that we spur commercial development, and for commercial development, you need a lot of rooftops.
Yeah, they go hand in hand. You're right.
And we've seen some of that down in us, but they're common occupancy.
But we've also seen our labor reports. We don't have enough workers to even. But that's another story.
Yeah, that's
That's an economic development.
we could go into that for a long time.
Right.
Go ahead.
Commissioners, I do want to touch on, I brought up home occupation licenses very quickly. I would like to touch on that. I believe we will have a work session in the near future regarding this. But our staff has done a really great job of crafting some language where we've adopted home occupation licenses that allows for people to operate businesses without needing a special use permit. These sorts of licenses allow things like in-home barbershops when you have fewer than 12 trips per day, small in-home daycares, items where we didn't feel it was really fair for people to go through the entire special use permit process because it's not really creating an impact on the neighborhood. It is very small in-home businesses. They provide us a narrative. We go over it, and as long as they can meet the criteria, which this board did approve the criteria about a year ago, but that's really gotten into full swing. We've been issuing more home occupation licenses to try to slow down on the special use permits. Our hope is that special use permits will be used for items that make an impact on the neighborhood, where public engagement really is necessary, where neighbors need to know what is happening, and this board can review that. But I am hopeful, again, that home occupation license is going to capture a lot of things that used to be unnecessary special use permits. As you know, we updated our sanitary code. We have continued to update our developmental process. We have a rolling deadline now as opposed to a hard deadline. We're hopeful that that will encourage quicker processes, getting items through the process quicker, which has been a frequent request on the behalf of the commission and on the behalf of developers. That's really all that I have. I will certainly answer any questions that you.
Crystal, you think than last year. I know a lot of times we see votes going different from what the recommendation is to what we're doing up here or like that. Do you see that we're gaining any ground on that as far as trying to follow the comprehensive plan? I mean, there's sometimes nothing's black and white. There's a lot of gray area in these things, but I just see that it looks like it's getting better, and especially with the meetings you're having now. I'm hoping that will continue to work well with you folks, Planning Commission, and us county commissioners.
So I think on rezonings, Chairman, specifically, that has been really easy to follow because you can look at the comprehensive plan and it either matches it or it doesn't.
Okay.
And that has been really helpful to put a lot of weight in the comprehensive plan. On other things, special use permits, as you know, special use permits in and of themselves almost never meet the comprehensive plan. So our staff is tasked with recommending denial. The Planning Commission is obviously able to weigh all of the factors, and so is this board. I think it's working fine.
Okay.
I do think sometimes it causes some maybe unnecessary uneasiness on the applicant's behalf because staff is recommending denial.
Right.
We do try to explain to them why we are recommending denial and that the Planning Commission will be able to weigh certain factors, and so will the board. So to try to put their mind at ease. But again, anytime they see that letter of denial recommendation, they get.
But they know too that's not the last step.
Correct. And we make that really clear.
Make sure they say,
Yes.
okay, there's other steps that you can go through, because we understand you're following the conference plan. I get that, but there's other steps that before it comes here that we can do just to make sure people are getting their.
Yes.
That's why it's so important to review it every year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And speaking of that, we are in the review process. I should have brought that up. We have had our first work session with our Planning Commission. We'll have another one in early February. I'm hopeful that we will have the update to the comprehensive done mid to late March.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
we will be all set. And that is a huge change from our department in the
Good.
past.
Good. Mike, do you have something?
Yeah, when this SUP policy that you're working on, those will be perpetual SUPs then. And that should solve a lot of the problems with people having.
Yes, for a significant portion of the special use permits, they would be perpetual. They would be reviewed at the administrative staff level. Of course, in that policy, we are writing in that if there's any changes to the SUP or if staff feels that the board needs to review it, that the board we would have that option to take it forward again if there's been a significant change to the business.
And would that be the Planning Commission that would advance that to us?
Yes.
Any other questions for Crystal? I like what I say. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
Crystal.
See how painless that was?
Compared to some of the others.
I don't even get worried about coming up here. Knock on wood.
Run, Crystal, run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next was executive session. Of course, that's
Gonna cancel that.
we're going to cancel that until
Okay.
the other folks are here. Then additional public comment. I think we just got commissioners now. Mark, do you have anything for the good of the group?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
So I have a question for Mark. I got a call from one of the gentlemen that was wanting to hear the county health officer. When do you have that scheduled, or is that going to have to be delayed?
It's going to be delayed. It won't be until probably middle of February.
Okay.
That makes sense, though, with what's going on. Okay, I'll start with the county commissioners. 2 meetings. Lansing City Council swore in their new elected body. Attended that. That went very well. Then Commissioner Cos and I were at the Upper County Fire District 1 meeting for board member to be put back on. And I thought that went fine, too, Vicki. That's all I have. I think that's all I have right now. Doug?
I just have Baser tonight, and I didn't make it to Lansing because.
I figured what was going on after I
Yeah.
sent you out of the driveway.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike?
The one thing I have is some folks from the Trinity Lutheran Church are trying to put together an effort to do some further tornado cleanup at 166th and Stillwell. There's still debris hung up in the trees, and they're putting that together. And I think they made a request for something.
Okay.
You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff?
I met with Senator Pittman and Wilson last week, discussed items like 152 Bridge and LAVTR funds. Also attended Leavenworth City Commission meeting last night.
Yeah, I have one alibi for you, Vicky. I'm sorry. I met with Commissioner Wilson from Leavenworth and asked Bill, our Public Works, to come in and talk about the bridge also. It was a very productive meeting, so did this the past week. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Vicky?
The Mental Health Task Force meeting yesterday, and last evening, the fundraiser for the Leavenworth School Foundation, the Wizards game was last evening, and attended that and helped with that event, and it was fairly well attended and a lot of fun.
Yeah, looks like
A lot of fun.
Facebook showed it, but anything else, Vicky? No. If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Motion, second. Aye.
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 We are adjourned. You have that little hesitant drama in there, maybe. We're adjourned. Thank you.